Ok, chicos, ¿cómo están todos?
Las cosas que hago, ¿eh?
No sé. ¿Ya vieron a Ana Cabrales?
Soy una niña buena.
Está bien padre el traje. Estamos con After Hours Real Estate. Hola a todos. Iris Heredia, en este día soy Mera, la esposa de Aquaman, ¿ok? Aquí andamos, ya ven, todo el show, todo el traje, ya saben, ahí. Y tenemos a Ana Cabrales de Niña Mala, o Niña Diabólica, o qué, Niña Traviesa.
Y eso me suena bien, niña diabólica. Si no compran conmigo, voy y los espanto.
Qué risa, vale más que vayan al préstamo con Ana o las espanten en la noche, definitivamente.
En la noche voy y les jalo los pies.
Pues aquí estamos, gracias amigos por unirse a nuestro show semanal de After Hours Real Estate. ¿Y de qué hablamos aquí? Un poquito de todo, ¿ok? Todo lo que está pasando en la comunidad, market updates, bienes raíces, obviamente toda la cuestión de préstamos, y les damos tips, agregamos valor, cualquier pregunta que tengan, estamos en vivo. No pudimos estar ayer por cuestiones técnicas, pero bueno, si no estamos el lunes, vamos a estar el día siguiente y estamos tratando de hacerlo constantemente. Ahora, no hemos celebrado, pero ya Anita y yo cumplimos un año, por si no se han dado cuenta, ya tenemos un año al aire. ¡Bravo! ¡Yay! Dándoles, adding value, okay? That's the whole point of this show. I'm going to switch now. The whole idea is to help you out to make the right decisions in real estate. Hopefully to help you build wealth and one day become the owner of the American dream of your own house and maybe several ones, right? And one day investment properties and anything else, dream home. So today we're going to be talking market update, real estate questions, scary stories in real estate, and we're going to be talking about loan assumption and recast. Okay, for those of you that are there, right, and still waiting, okay, to see what is it that you're going to do, you're going to buy or not, we have more options for you in lending. Okay, so we're going to start with Anna here. Anna, so tell us about what is a loan assumption?
En inglés, ¿sí, verdad? Loan assumption is when, let's say I bought a house and I closed a 30-year mortgage at 2% interest rate. And let's say I have a...
My husband and my son are making fun of me. Ok, sorry, Ana. Continue.
Dije yo, ojalá que no se le olvide a Iris que es disfraz y voy a llegar yo y ella acá como si nada. Dije, ojalá que no se le olvide.
Sí me acordé, pero la otra, recuérdame.
Sí, dije, voy a llegar yo ahí toda cansada. Loan assumption is, let's say I closed a loan a few years ago at 2% interest rate, 30 years. And let's say after a while, I no longer want the house and my sister wants the house. She can assume the loan with the original terms that I had. Basically, she takes over the payments. Nothing changes. But in order to do that, you need to ask for permission. You need to contact the mortgage. Most of the time, the new buyer is going to have to be underwritten, making sure that they qualify for it. I don't think it's a very common practice, but whenever you close your loan, it will tell you whether your loan is assumable or is not assumable. So that's something that you can read on. And especially now, let's say that you are wanting to buy a house and you know the seller and the seller had really good terms, maybe that's something that you can look into it. The only disadvantage of an assumption is whenever you buy a house, you have closing cost fees, you have discount points, and usually when you do your tax returns, you're able to use that like as an expense, as a liability, I guess. And whenever you do an assumption, you cannot write off any of that. That's the only, that's one of the disadvantages.
Yes, but talking about interest rates, because, our friends are concerned right now, people, not everybody, can afford that interest rate. So then let's say we have a buyer, right? And let's say the loan or the house that they're interested in has an assumable loan. And let's say the mortgage is in agreement, right? But he's not related, the buyer is not related to the buyer. can the buyer purchase or assume this loan? And of course, there's going to be a difference in price. And then he can finance, let's say, $100,000. I mean, is it possible that this can be assumable even though it's not a member of the family who wants to assume the loan?
The guidelines talk about a buyer and seller, so not necessarily related.
Okay, perfect. So then, friends, if you're listening to this show, I mean, and you're still out there, waiting and waiting, I mean, we can find a home for you. You can ask us, right? In this case, it will be me, right? That they have a loan that is assumable. If the loan is assumable, you can get the interest rate that owner of that house used to have, right? So you're just gonna assume the loan, and of course, you're gonna finance the difference. So then you're going to end up saving a lot of money, because obviously there's going to be closing costs, right? I mean, with the assumption of the loan and with a new loan, but you're going to save potentially a lot of money, because if the interest rate, let's say you qualify for a, I don't know, 5.75, 6%, whatever it is, and the previous owner interest rate, it was 3 or 4%, is substantial. Okay, your earnings with your savings, and then you will only have to borrow $100,000, and then you can refinance those. I mean, according to the loan, right? I mean, within 1 year or two. I mean, that would be the easiest way in these times right now to buy a house, or another way to do it. Because remember, we're always trying to give you different ways to buy your house, and do not have to wait for the market to normalize. Anna, anything else that you want to add about before changing to the recast loan, about loan assumption?
So when the original seller closed on the loan, it's gonna give them terms whether the loan is assumable or not. So if you're talking to a seller, you're negotiating, try to get those documents from the mortgage. That way you know if this is an option for you as a buyer.
Okay, so then yes, so then basically just doing your research, right? Obviously, you're gonna you're gonna have your buyer representation, let's say a realtor, a broker in this case, and that person, your realtor, or the professional, is gonna be in charge of finding out if this loan is assumable, right? And you'll know if you can present an offer in this property, right, without having to finance the complete amount and pay, obviously right now a higher interest rate, and you can get the ex-owner's low interest rate. Okay, that would be great. So then, Anna, okay, we just discussed loan assumption, and we're doing loan assumption versus recast loan option. Can you tell us now, Anna, what's the difference on the recast loan? I think it's called like that.
So a recast, it's let's say that I have a house and I closed with a balance of 200,000. I owe 200,000 right now. Let's say that I get a bonus of $50,000. Most people would take that money, give it to the loan, and what it does, they apply it towards principal. So instead of owing, let's say I owe 30 years still on the mortgage, instead of owing 30 years, it cuts it. Let's say I owe now 18 years because I applied 50,000, let's say. But my payment stays the same. I shorten the years, but my payment stay the same.
Okay.
When you recast the loan, you're basically telling the mortgage, I want this 50,000 to be applied and do a new amortization table. So basically you cut the balance, give me the payment. If it was 200,000, you apply 50, give me the payment of a loan of 150. So instead of shortening the years, you shorten the payment.
Okay, so then it's kind of, I mean, I don't know, I might be wrong what I got when I did that to one of my houses. I think it was, I don't know, I'm not sure if it was a refinance, but I mean, we shortened the years, but the payment stayed the same.
So when you recast, the payment is the one that's shortened, not the years. So a lot of people that say, I don't care about the years, I'll pay it as it goes, but I really want to take care of a smaller payment. It depends on the mortgage, check on your mortgage, but usually if you have $10,000 to give, you can recast your mortgage. They usually charge you a one-time fee to recast, $350 more or less. But you have to request it. You can say, I have $10,000 to give down. I don't want it applied towards the mortgage. I want to recast. So they'll give you a new amortization table and your payment gets decreased. So it's great also for people that have a higher payment and they want to lower it. Well, do this, do a recast so you get a lower payment, especially if you got like maybe your tax refund, you sold a vehicle, you got a bonus, something you can buy a house now and you're anticipating the money in the future. Well, recast it as soon as you get the money.
That is a wonderful, thing to do. Now, let me ask you about the recast. Can you do it all the time? Any time, or is only being offered at this time?
No, it can be done. It's not very common practice. A lot of people don't know about it, but you can do it. You have to request it. You do have to pay that one-time fee for them to do that amortization table, but you can do it. You could just need to request it from your lender.
And the normal or usually people will be more interested on having a lower payment on their loan than years, right? I'm thinking,
Yes, yes, because most people say, I don't care about the years because more than likely I won't even stay 30 years. I'll probably sell it before, but I care about my monthly payment.
Okay, so
So,
then
if you know that you're having money, you're anticipating a bonus, you're anticipating tax refund, you're anticipating selling another house, you're anticipating selling a vehicle, then get the house now. Yes, your payment will be higher because interest rate is higher, but as soon as you get that money that you anticipate, recast the loan.
Oh, that is awesome. So then it can be done anytime then. So then, friends, if you're listening to After Hours Real Estate or you have any questions about the difference between recast loan or loan assumption, okay, let us know, because we know things have changed or they may change to any of us, right, in any situation. So I think it's a very good idea that you have the option to recast your loan in case that your situation has changed. You probably want to pay less monthly for, for whatever reasons well, once they do that, it will stay like that, right? It's not temporarily. You cannot go back to how it was. You would just continue.
Yeah.
And also people that they want to finish paying the loan quicker, they could do the years. I'm thinking they will have the option to do.
You can just apply towards principal and shorten the years.
And then it shortens the years. So then, yes, that is awesome, Anna. Great information, everybody. Golden nuggets today. We're here celebrating Halloween. We're in After Hours Real Estate. And we have, Anna, introduce yourself.
I'm Ana Cabrales, a mortgage lender, but right now I'm playing a little bad girl.
Okay, a bad girl.
If you don't buy a house with me, I'll come and scare you.
Yes, she'll scare you in the middle of the night.
I'll come and pull your feet. So buy a house with me.
Yes, please do so. And I'm Iris Heredia, Realtor broker with Momentum Realty. And today we are Aquaman's wife. We're Meta today with red hair. I can't wait to have it this long one day. Okay, so then now we're going to go to scary stories, or we can also talk about the market. So let's finish the market. The market is pretty quick. Okay, what's going on with the real estate market? So as of right now, we continue being on a seller's market. Okay, the only thing that we have noticed is there's more houses, the inventory is now 3.2 months inventory. So slowly, we're getting more and more houses. But as of now, we still seller's market. It hasn't switched yet to buyer's market. That's one. The other one is, how long is it taking for my house to sell if I'm a seller? Okay, that we get a lot, that question. Right now, as per the Mission-McAllen, Edinburgh area, is taking 47 days. So at least it's 30 days for closing. Let me see, 47 days total, okay? So let me give you the information because I think I'm changing numbers. Okay, 3.4 months inventory. That one I got it right, compared to August 2021. Okay, now we have 56.9% more active listings compared to August 2022. Days on the market is 47 days, and days to close is 31 days. So it's a total of 78 days, okay, before you're able to move into your next home, or I don't know, relocation, whatever the situation is, right, of selling your home. So that's what we're seeing. Now, the median price now, okay, in 2022, is going to be 220,000. Okay, so that's what we're seeing right now. And how many sales are we closing? We're closing 2.3% less sales than from last year, August 2022. Okay, so just for you to know. Okay,
so it's not much of a decrease. that you're
No,
seeing?
no,
Okay.
it's slightly. That's what we keep telling you. I know that you, I mean, I know friends, you continue listening to the same thing. I mean, and then you don't understand and you keep asking me, why is it still a seller's market, right? If there's less movement, because it has to do with the inventory of the properties, right? So then we still continue having less houses. I mean, we do have more, I mean, than last year, but it's slowly coming up. Now, what you're seeing is houses are not selling in 3 days, right? Like in the past. Now we have 70 some days, okay? 40 some days on the market and 30 days to close. Yeah, 47 days in the market. So then, if you are selling a house and you're listening to this Facebook show, and you're a seller or you're planning to sell, I mean, remember, it's gonna take you a little bit, I mean, a little bit more, right? At least a month and a half to have your house under contract. Now, please remember these sellers, okay? These numbers that we're giving you, they're based on the comparative market analysis price. If you chose a higher price, obviously you're doubling, okay, that time. So you're gonna stay in the market for a lot longer. I mean, you're gonna be in the market for 40, let's say a month and a half, the most, if you are in the correct market value of your property, the one that we suggest. So then pay attention to that, okay? So are we still selling houses? That's the next question. Yes, but a slower rate, okay? It's a lot, it's like I said, normalizing, right? Not as quick, it's still happening, but slower, how it used to be in the past, okay? But
Okay.
yes, if you want to sell, it's time to sell. We have a lot of clients coming into the market right now. So less competition, everybody. Buyers listening, no competition for you. More, I mean, seller concessions, maybe closing costs, loan assumptions, recast of the loan, and the one that we mentioned last time. And
The
what was
temporary buy down,
we have
temporary interest rate buy down.
temporary interest rate buy down. So then, yes, you have a lot. I mean, little by little, buyer, you're having, I mean, purchasing power, okay, because you are not competing, right, with others. So then that's what we're
Regarding the temporary buy down, just a little recap. Let's
seeing.
say that the interest rate right now it's a 7. Let's just make it up. It's a
Yes.
7. If you do a temporary interest rate buy down, let's say for 2 years, you're gonna close with a 5%, 2 points, 2% lower than what the final will be. So
Okay.
it makes a big difference.
Of course, of
That's
course.
also available. Mhm.
Okay, so uh, did you hear that? I mean, that is a very good point. Okay, now we're gonna go into the funny part, everybody. Okay, so scary stories on real estate and in lending.
I uh, I
That's
went to a close. This didn't happen to me, but they told me at the closing table.
a
It
ver.
was a company in West La Cosa. I'm gonna say all that.
Okay.
I was talking. We were closing the documents with my client, and I asked like, "Have you ever had an issue or anything at closing?" And the lady said, "Yes, because I had a closing. It was a husband and wife. Let's just say it's Juan and Maria, right?" And they're signing all the documents. They're all excited. They're gonna buy a house, and then at the end, I tell them to sign my notary book and tell them like, I need your driver license. I need you to sign the notary book saying that you're Juan and Maria, and that you're married and you're buying this house. And then she says that the lady started like shaking, and she looked like she was something happening to her. And she asked her like, "Are you okay? Is everything okay?" And the lady started crying, and she said, "My name is Maria." Let's say the last name was Gonzalez. Yeah, my name is Maria Gonzalez, but I'm not his wife. I'm his sister. It just happens that his wife is also Maria Gonzalez, but he doesn't want her signing. So since my name is also Maria Gonzalez, I'm signing.
I know. And then what happened? I mean, they couldn't close the sale, obviously,
They
because she's
stopped.
not the
That's
real
like
Maria.
she was not willing to sign that last paper
Oh my.
because it's fraud. It's bad. You're saying that you're somebody else.
And,
So it
and what was
stopped
the point?
everything.
And what was the point of him doing that? I mean, he just didn't want to give her any money, or what?
I guess he didn't, maybe they were separated, or in Texas, if you're married, that your spouse needs to sign. Maybe they were separated. Maybe he didn't want her knowing. Maybe he had another girlfriend. I have no idea. But the point of the story: don't do it.
No,
Don't commit
please.
fraud. And
And what
be
do you
honest, people,
think?
be honest.
Yeah,
That would be so horrible. Imagine, how do you explain that?
so what happened to him? Was he the seller or the buyer?
He was a buyer.
Oh my God, poor seller.
Imagine, it's just horrible. It's a
Now
horror
listen,
story.
we can save. Usually, if the real estate broker, realtor is sitting there right at time of closing, or the lender is there, I mean, we can pretty much try to solve any kind of situations, and that's why we recommend that you find an agent that goes with you for to closing, or a mortgage officer, because a lot of things can happen at the closing table, or panicking, or forget about panicking. It's more questions, I would say, doubts, questions. Maybe there's some, money. I'll let you know a story right now, missing. But it's so important, right, that you're truthful, especially the time of closing. I mean, before, like, what was he thinking? I mean, and
I
then,
think he thought he could get away with it. I thought he thought, like, it's not falsifying things. You have the same name. Go ahead and sign.
oh
But
my,
unfortunately, you're signing as a married couple, and they're not married. You're not that person that's on the paper. That's not your social. Yes, that's not your date of birth. So
and
it's
I
wrong.
mean, how did the another one, the sister, decided to tell him? If she was there, she was already in it.
I
So
guess she was in it, but I guess at the last minute she said,
about
"You know what? I'm not gonna do it. It's a liability. They could be sued. They
yeah.
could foreclose on them. They can call up the mortgage to pay it all at once. So it's a big deal. Be honest. I always tell you, we are your attorneys in a way. Tell us everything so we know how to help you. Unfortunately, that person didn't. Thank God it was not my client,
I
but
see.
it's a horror story.
Yes, it is. Now, let me tell you another one that happened to it. I mean, I think it happened to me. I'm gonna say that, okay, just for that, okay, just because it is Halloween, okay. That way I don't come up with names. Okay, so let's say, I mean, I was the closing table, and then all of a sudden, right, the other party, which in this case was the buyer, right, I was representing the listing agent, the seller. All of a sudden, they're looking at the numbers, and they notice that there was an amount of, I don't know, $600, which was some kind of escrow fees, title, right? That they didn't know because their agent had not told them about this, right? So then they show up with partial the amount of closing, but he was missing at least $600. So he couldn't really close. I mean, because he could have come back with the money, but he didn't have the money with him. So he told me, I won't be able to close. I mean, I don't know what else we can do. Can they give me a discount? I don't know, a seller concession, a credit, because I don't want to lose the house, but I cannot afford $600 more. So then, why is it so important that you have your lender, right, your realtor at the time of table? I mean, at the time of closing, is because we're able to find solutions, talk to the seller, or try to help you out with something, right? That way you're able to close. But I mean, first of all, those things shouldn't be happening because you should know what is the amount, right, that you need to present yourself. At the time of closing. But the situation was that the buyer agent wasn't there. He didn't, buyer agent didn't review the CD or the closing disclosure. So then buyer just showed up without knowing. And then title told him, well, you can bring the check later. I mean, you don't have to bring it right now. But that wasn't the point. The point is that he was missing money. And he was, this thing wasn't going to close because we're not going to be able to get the money, right? So finally, right, I was there. So we were able to basically give him seller credits. We basically saved him, right? But we didn't really have to. And I felt so bad for him because he was almost, he didn't cry, but he was almost in tears, right? And I
But
mean,
that's very scary because when you buy a house, you have a lot of expenses. You have to connect water, electricity. If you cannot pay $600, what about the payment later on?
I know
It's
it is
scary.
scary. It is scary, but the lender wasn't there, so basically it was only me there. So I had to save the deal, and I did because if we're at that point of the deal, we're gonna let it loose, right? For $600,
Yeah.
there's no point. So we have to. I was able to save it, but what
I'm sure he was happy after you stepped in and helped.
but I wasn't. He wasn't my client.
Yeah.
But then again, if I'm already there, I'm representing the seller. We all winning in the situation. We need to help each other. I say, you know what? let's just take care of it, right? And let's move forward. But you're right. And I mean, if he was having trouble with $600, can you imagine in the future,
Yeah.
right?
Hopefully he thought it through and he had a good budget already lined up.
So, friends, if you need an agent, right, or your mortgage officer, please make sure that the agent that you chose, I mean, they are okay being present with you at the time of closing. Because if you haven't closed, you're still not the owner of the house, right? It still has to be recorded. It's called file and fund. I mean, closing and funding, right? It has to be recorded in the court of law. You don't have the key yet. I mean, anything can happen. So make sure that your realtor or your mortgage officer is present with you at the time of closing. That's something that you need to know for sure. Let me see what else has happened, Anna, because everything has happened.
A lot of things have happened. A lot of horror stories, a lot of good stories too.
Yes. But
Yeah.
right now we're talking about scary stories in real estate and in lending. So something
I
scary.
had one where a buyer bought a house, and after they closed, like the day of closing, they had closed, they had funded, they had gotten the keys. They go in to look at their house, they're all excited. And when sometimes when you see the house the first time, you don't take a look at it very carefully. Sometimes people are still living there, so you don't open closets, you kind of look quickly. Well, this time they went and they were really looking at everything, and they opened the kitchen cabinets. I don't know if I mentioned it, and they had mold. It seemed
Ah,
like there was a water leak in the kitchen, and there was mold, visible mold in the kitchen cabinets.
mm,
They call a handyman, and the handyman started pulling up a section of it, and so the wall was also mold. And so they call me, and they're like, Anna, can you stop the process? Like, it's the day of closing, can we stop? And I'm like, it's done, it's recorded, it's in the courthouse, people got paid.
mm. Hey,
And
they didn't have an inspector. They didn't inspect the house.
they did have an inspector.
Oh, even worse. Okay, everybody, listen to this scary story. Make sure that the inspector that you are using is someone that is being recommended, okay, by someone else that has purchased a home, or your realtor, your broker, your mortgage officer. Okay, someone that is, I would say, that they know what they're doing and that they're doing it correctly. Please pay attention to that. Then,
Yeah.
Anna, what happened?
And so they called it, like, can we stop it? I'm like, no, like, let me ask. It's never happened to me before, let me ask. So I called corporate and I'm like, what can we do? They're like, it's too late, he's the owner. And fortunately, he did have a real estate agent. The real estate agent called the seller's agent and said, this is happening, it's new, it was not caught. Did the sellers know of this? They're like, no, the sellers didn't know there was a leak. Um, uh, they had been living in the house, and
That is so strange,
I
right?
don't know, they had not seen it, or
Or
what.
they
I don't
knew
know.
it.
Maybe they knew and say, I don't know. But the seller, even after closing, decided to help the buyer with money uh, because of the issue. And it worked out for the buyer because the buyer had mentioned that they wanted to redo the kitchen. They wanted to remodel it.
Okay.
So the seller, fortunately, the seller had cash at that point. They had just sold the house. They had cash, so they gave the buyer money, and so the buyer redid the kitchen, remodeled the kitchen, took care of all that mold, got the new kitchen basically. But it was a scary process for a while. One, for me, it had never happened. Two, for the buyer. I mean, he felt horrible. He felt like he
Mm.
was taken advantage of. But fortunately, they had a real estate agent. The real estate agent did a good job representing them and working a deal after closing to get it resolved.
That was pretty good, okay? Because I mean, once you become an owner, I mean, you have taken all responsibility. That's why you had termination option, which is when you inspect, right? So once inspections are over and you already closed and funded and you have the keys, I mean, you're the rightful owner. Anything that happens into that house, I mean, it's not, I mean, the seller's problem anymore,
Mhm.
right? So that was very nice of him. I'm so glad.
Yes.
But let me see. I think I had another. I had several stories, but I mean, one of them was the house. I was again the leasing agent, right? So it was sold. It had a pool, and it had I believe it was. Wait, I think I'm confusing cases. No, no, no. It was a house that looked like a new house, but it wasn't. It was a fix and flip. I mean, it had been flipped, but I mean, but the agent continued repeating to the buyer that they were buying a brand new construction because it looked like brand new from the inside. But I mean, you know that it wasn't because you have all the specs of the property, right? And the way it looked from the outside in that neighborhood. So it's not a new construction. But somehow the buyer agent, right, continues saying you're buying a new home, you're buying a new home, whatever. So then they buy the house, everybody's so happy, right? Close funding happened, they have the keys, right? And then the next day, I mean, at night, right, they start making a huge situation because they cannot connect light into the property, right? Because now they're saying that this is a brand new construction. I mean, the seller did not get a permit with the city, right? And they need a specific number because this is a new construction, and they don't have light, and they cannot move in, and they're so upset, right? I mean, they call the city, they talk about the seller was cutting corners and this and that. And you know what the funny thing it was? It was that it had never been a new construction. So obviously there's no, I mean, new construction permit because it's not needed. It was a renovation. So friends, if you're listening to this, not because a house looks new from the inside, it requires a permit. Okay, so then you can just call any electric company and the light is connected immediately. So I don't know what happened. I think when she called to the light company, she said it's a new house. So then the light company asked for a specific number. And then the light company said, well, you need to have the paperwork for the new permit. Right. So then it was just laughable, right? Laughable to see how an agent, right, a realtor agent who's been doing this for a long, long time in the market, right? She was giving the erroneous information to the buyer to the point that the buyer believed that this was a new construction, right? So, oh my God. So then again, I have to go into the picture, right? And I said, you know what? I'll fix this. I mean, no one is cutting corners. I mean, we're not gonna wait until Monday because they needed to move in, right? I mean, it was during the weekend. I'm just gonna call and connect the light under my name, right? And it's gonna be connected, right? I mean, you can move in. I'll pay for the whole weekend, and then on Monday, Tuesday, whatever, whenever you have a chance, transfer the light to your name. So then I was able to prove to them that the seller was not doing anything illegal, right? I mean, the only thing you had to do is to call and connect the light. But the buyer gave the wrong information to the light company. And then instead of them asking the right questions, the buyers, they got upset right away. You know how we are, right? They start calling the city, and it was just a scary story.
I can imagine because they start thinking all these things.
Yes,
Your imagination is worse
yes.
than reality. You start thinking, they
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 believed it.
they built this house. They didn't get permits. I have no idea how it's built. So
Exactly. And they were having a lot of questions already by that time. They were not being happy anymore. And then I said, I mean, instead of going into the negative, friends, right? Just call another company, or I don't know, talk to the sales.
another agent,
You can
another
always
agent.
talk to us, right? You can always call the agent of the seller and say, hey, I'm having this issue. Do you know anything about this, right? If your buyer agent, your realtor that represents the buyer doesn't have the information and you're having an issue, you can always contact the listing agent of the house, right? And ask. But yeah, so then that was funny, right? I mean, but then again, anything happens in real estate.
Yes.
Anita, thank you so much for joining us. I don't want to let
Thank
you
you,
go.
Edie.
You look awesome. Now you need to go to trunk or treat somewhere. You're ready?
I think I need to go to sleep.
I think so.
I look tired.
Thank you so much, friends, for watching After Hours Real Estate. I hope you got a lot of golden nuggets today. We're here to add value. Any questions that you might have, you know how to find us. I'm Sosa-Heredia, real estate broker with Momentum Realty. We have Ana Cabrales with Cabrales Mortgage. You can send us a message. We're live here every Monday at 5 or Tuesday, like
Or
today.
Tuesday.
Okay, but you can ask us any questions, okay? And
I
we're
think next Monday we'll be trick or treating.
yes, pretty much. I think Monday we're not going to be here. It's probably going to be Tuesday. Okay. So thank you so much for watching and have a great time, everybody. And thank you, Anna. Bye.
Bye.